So game theory is an amazing tool to looking at how different individuals or countries react to one another. And there is one-shot games and repeated games. And in this video here, we're going to talk about repeated games. In a previous video, we talked about one-shot games, which is a game that happens once only. And it's a sole interaction to try to determine whether these two countries or companies would want to cooperate or do their own thing. And in that one-shot game, it's much harder to get cooperation, because why would you try to build trust if you can gain more by backstabbing the other individual if you're never going to deal with this individual again? When we move to repeated games, there's different ways of analyzing this, but if we just think about it in a simple context, here it makes sense to start building trust because the cooperative ideal is better for everyone than the non-cooperative scenario. And because of that, if you're going to repeat this over and over and over and over, well, although the backstabbing, pretending to be cooperative, and not being cooperative is even better than the cooperative ideal, as soon as you do that, you're stuck with that non-cooperative ideal for a certain amount of time before you could build trust again. But if you know that you're going to be dealing with this relationship over and over again, then it makes sense to try to cooperate and to maintain trust throughout so that everyone keeps gaining throughout this whole process. The problem is that it's always enticing to try to get better, to try to do better than the cooperative ideal. And by doing so, you can be seen as backstabbing the other person, defecting from an agreement. So you both agree, let's say you're two gasoline stations, this is illegal what I'm explaining here, that decide to act as a cartel, so you're both fixing the price at the same amount that is higher than if you were competing, and then you keep that for a certain amount of time. Well, as soon as one of the two breaks that agreement, sells at a lower price, and the other person notices that you've backstabbed them, well, if trust is gone, well, then they're going to go back to a competitive price, both of them. They won't keep charging that higher price, and they're going to just compete more strongly between one another, and both of them will lose out over time. But for that short period of time where the other person was charging a high price, you charged a lower price, and a lot of consumers came to you, for that very short time, you gained more. Same thing happens with two countries developing trust over time. If you backstab the other country, either by introducing tariffs or something else, that's going to end up hurting the other person because you're trying to bully them into a certain situation. When you do so, for that very short time, it is possible that you will gain. There is a possible short-term gain going on there. However, that comes at a cost. And as we can see in game theoretical, repeated games, dynamic game models, over time, that breaking of trust is typically not worth it. If you look over time and you see that afterwards this other country no longer wants to deal with you, or will start trading with other countries, or will do something else, well, you're probably going to end up being in a worse situation. So the big important part here to look at is when you think about doing something that can gain you a better outcome, if you're going to have to deal with this person again in the future, if you're hurting them, you're definitely not going to have their trust in the future, and therefore you're going to end up having a situation where both of you are losing over time. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying to screw people over, that it's only a one-shot deal, but just try to see relationships as they are. You want to build trust. By building trust, everyone can gain, everyone could be better off. And as soon as you just try to be very selfish and do your own thing, well, you might do a little bit better, but don't just focus on the short term, because if you do so, you're going to notice, you're going to forget that all of this long-term gains are kind of wiped out. So always take into account the long-term impacts of short-term decisions. You could think that a policy is really good short-term because you're squeezing more money out of a trading partner. But in the long term, this will definitely hurt you. So the next time you think about hurting someone else in an agreement that you may have to gain in the short term, please consider the long-term implications of that move. If you found this video interesting, please consider subscribing or joining my class where I guide you to apply and expand on the information found in these videos to real-life examples. Have a good day.